Hello and welcome to this beginner's tutorial on Microsoft Excel. Today I'll be teaching you some basic layouts, terminologies, how to input and format your data, how to work with functions, with formulas, charts, how to print, and I'll just be training some tips for you. So if you're looking to learn Microsoft Excel, maybe for accounting, for auditing, as a data analyst, as a supply chain analyst, or just for administrative roles, you're welcome to the right place. With this tutorial, you get all the basics to be able to start up with Microsoft Excel in your chosen field and to have all the foundational knowledge you need to take my next tutorial that will be a little bit more advanced than this. All right, let's begin. I will just go ahead and open my Microsoft Excel and I have it down here on my taskbar. So this is a taskbar. You just click on it to open it. So this is what the Microsoft Excel looks like. Depending on the version you have, it could be slightly different. Okay, still this tutorial will help cover it. You'll be able to still relate what you learn here to whichever version you have because they are largely very similar. Okay, so if you look at the Microsoft Excel, you'll see here recent and you have a number of documents. These are documents I have worked on previously and saved on Microsoft Excel, and they are arranged in order of how old they are. So you can see 5 minutes ago. So you can see 5 minutes ago, you can see 2 hours ago, yesterday, and then down to last year. So that is how you have them arranged in your recent files in case you're looking for something. If you want a particular file to be on top, you can just simply go to that file and click on this star sign. All right, this adds it to your favorites. So what that does for you is that it brings that particular file on top. You can see this file just came up. It also saves it under your favorites, just kind of separates it so that if you want it, you can have easy access to it. Okay, so let's go back to our recent. Depending on the version you have, if you hover somewhere around here, you should find a small pin called, it just tagged pin or unpin. So you can pin it to also bring a particular document you want to the top of the list, or unpin it and it sends it back to where it should be. If you look up here, we have templates that you can use in Microsoft Excel. So templates are already pre-prepared Microsoft Excel documents. So you don't have to start from scratch. You can produce very professional looking work using templates. So when you're done with this tutorial, it should have provided you with the basic knowledge you would need to start exploring all these templates. However, the best way to really get to understand Microsoft Excel is to learn it using a blank workbook. So let's just go to our blank workbook, click and open it so we can start. Also, this video will be time-stamped, so if you are looking for something specifically, you can easily just check through the timestamp and find what you're looking for. All right, this is what the Microsoft Excel looks like. And if you've used other Microsoft products, you can tell that there's a lot of similarities with this and Microsoft Word, Microsoft PowerPoint, okay? So you have File, you have Home, you have Inserts, Page Layout, Formulas, Data, and Review. These are called the tabs, okay? And when I click on any tab, I get a different set of ribbons. So what comes up, what you have here is referred to as the ribbons, okay? And then these ribbons are also divided into groups. These groups are demarcated by lines. So from here all the way to here is one group called fonts. The name is written here. From here all the way to here is another group called alignments. From here you have it down to here is another group called number. So everything is just arranged in a way that makes it easy to find what you're looking for, or to have an idea where you can find what you're looking for. If you're not sure where to find something in Excel, you can click on tell me what to do. And let's say I'm looking for charts. So I can type charts, and then if I click on the one I'm looking for, it will take me to charts. So that's just something else you can keep in mind. All right. So in a group, sometimes you don't have every detail showing in this small space. All right, there is always more in a group for some groups. So just take a note, take a look at this little button here. If you click on it, you see that it shows you way more options than you have in that little space, and you have all this under that group. So you can just always check them explore and see every other thing you have in a particular group. All right. So if I click on a letter in the Microsoft Excel, I have just selected a column. If I click on a number in the Microsoft Excel, I have just highlighted a row. So Microsoft Excel is made up of rows and columns, and this is part of what differentiates it with other Microsoft packages. If I click on a particular spot on the spreadsheet, I have selected a cell. A cell is where a column intersects with a row. So this column E intersected with row 6, and that also gives the cell its name. So this will be called E6. You can see the name here. This is called a name box. So if I click on any cell, the name will appear here. Now, I can also grab a bunch of cells by just clicking and dragging, and that is called a range. This is particularly useful because as you work with Microsoft Excel, you might need to work with a bunch of data and format them, and you don't want to do that one after the other, so you can just grab a range and do the formatting that you would like to do. Okay, so the entire thing you are looking at here is called a workbook. And in a Microsoft Excel workbook, you have different worksheets, or you can create different worksheets. If you look down here, you can see we have sheet 1. I can create more worksheets by just clicking on this plus sign. I've created another. I can create another, as many as I want, and I can rename them. I can just rename them by double clicking and changing the name. So let's call this, let's do something in sales. So let's call this monthly sales. And let's call this regional sales. Now let's call the third one. So I just double click and I'm able to edit it. Daily sales, okay? I can also drag them around if I don't like the position. So I think daily sales should come. Okay, I didn't spell that quite right. Let me adjust it. So I think daily sales should come before monthly sales. So I can just click on it and drag it. Okay, so these are just like having, this is rather just like having different pages in one book, and you can save different data in the different pages. Okay, so that's it. Then I think we should start entering some data now to see how it works in Microsoft Excel. However, I want you to see my screen way better. I want to make it a bit larger for you. So I'm just going to zoom out rather. So I'll go to view. So I can zoom in if I want more space. Take note that you have so many rows and so many columns in Microsoft Excel. You're not going to run out of rows and columns. There are just so many. Okay, I'm not sure of the exact number. So, but to zoom out, I can go to zoom. That's one way to do it. Click on zoom. Click on, if I want it 200% larger, I can do that. Okay, this is pretty large. Or if I want it smaller, I can do that. But another way to do this is just to come down here. You see this bar here, you can just click on the plus sign or minus depending on what you would like to do. So I think this is okay. You can see my screen pretty clear now. So we'll work with this. So how do I enter data on or in a cell? I just double click and begin to type. So let's say I type date here. I'd like us to create a table for sales. I can click on the next one and type products. I can click on the next one and type category. But that is not the only way to enter information in a particular cell. I can select a cell and type in the formula bar. Note that whenever I typed in a particular cell, you could see what I was typing up here in the formula bar. This is called the formula bar. So if you have anything in a cell, you would always see it up here in the formula bar. So I can simply click here and I can simply select here. Instead of typing here, I can come to the formula bar and type. So let me type quantity sold. I select the next one. I can call this unit price. So how much did I sell a particular product for? So let's put this in USD. Then I can select it and this and type in my formula bar. Let's call this let's say total sale. Can also put this in USD. Okay, that should be a bracket. Then let's call this last one, let's say payment methods. Payment methods. Okay. Oh, there's a mistake there. Okay, so if you make a mistake, there are a number of things you can do. I can do Ctrl Z to undo that. I can use this arrow here. I just click on it and then it takes that away and I can do that again. So let's type it properly. I can say payment methods. Okay, that is accurate now. Okay, so let's do some basic formatting. So I can simply just click on this, highlight it like I'll do in Microsoft Word, and then I come up here and decide what I want to do. I can change the font if I don't like this font. Let's say I want to put Arial Black. Okay, I can change the size, maybe make it larger. Whoa, that's way too large. Okay, let's make it a bit smaller. Let's make it smaller. Let's choose 12. That's more fitting. I can also change the color here. I can decide I want this red. I like red. Okay, that looks great. So you can just play around with this, get to know everything you can do here. All right, but this is part of a heading of a table, so I don't want the first column looking different. So I will just highlight everything by clicking on the number of the row. Come here where you have this eraser sign, click on it. You can see clear format. You can always use this to clear all formatting. All right, so it returns it to what it was before. So I would rather copy the entire table and let's format it all together. Okay, so let's do that. So I've highlighted everything. I want to choose, let's say, Arial Black. We can give it a color. Let's make it blue. I think that looks great. I can fill it in as well. Let's fill it in with light blue. That fits in. Okay. You might be wondering why some numbers seem to, or some letters in the cell seem to overlap. First, note that it doesn't mean that the letter itself is no longer there. It's right there. If I select any cell, I can see what is completely in the cell in the formula bar. So even if it looks hidden, the information is still the way it should be. However, but I need more space. I don't want it looking this way. So one of the things I can do is I can place my cursor here in between the letters where you have the line, directly on the line. I can just click on it and drag to the width I want. Okay, I can click and drag to the width I want. Something else I can do is I can position it same way and double click. And this is a better option because it fits it in perfectly for me. So if I don't want this width that is too wide, I can just double click. It fits it in for me. Double click. Yes, so let's do that all the way. Good. I think this is looking way more arranged now. All right. So we can now bring in some data to begin to work with, or let me just type in some data for you. So let's say here we have 2026 to January 1st of January 2026. And what product do we have here? Let's say bottled water, or bottled water rather. So I'm not going to start typing all the data, and while you just watch, I could just pause this, bring in a bunch of data since you know how to type already, and then we'll take it from there. All right, great. I have a bunch of data now that we can work with. We formatted this. Let me do that again. So I'm sure you already know how to do this. You just change it to blue or whatever color you like. I think I want to go with blue. Great. All right. So while I was filling in these data, my dates came out to be like this, but I decided to leave it so that I could explain to you what this means. So if you're filling in data or you've done some work and you see this on your sheet or in a column, it could mean one of two things. It could mean that there's a wrong formula in that column. It could also mean that the space is too small, which is the case here. So just like I taught you previously, you can double click to make it larger. Now you can see your dates and everything fits in perfectly. Okay. If you also look at this column, I can see that some words are hidden, some words are cut off. We have bottled water, we have white bread loaf. Okay, this is supposed to be loaf, but I cannot see the F. So if you have very long details in a cell, there's something you can do. You can highlight that cell by clicking on the letter above it. Come to where you have wrap text, click on wrap text. So what wrap text does is that it wraps a text and brings it into multiple lines, so you can see all of it without really expanding the cell. So you can do this when you don't want a really long cell. So let's click on it and see what happens. So you can see it just drops down some letters to retain the cell size and still show me what is in the cell. So I have white bread loaf instead of having it so long. All right. But I don't think I really like that. So let's undo that. Great. I would rather spread it out. It's not so long after all. Let's do this. Okay, fair enough. All right. Then where I have numbers, I think these cells are a bit large. So let's just bring them a bit closer. Total sales. Okay. Okay, that's fine. Yes, so I can also put this since this is money, this unit price, I can change it to put a currency symbol. So I just have to come to numbers here, click on numbers, click on currency, and then you choose the symbol of the currency you want. So you can see currencies of different country depending on what you're looking for. So this is in dollars. I'll just click here and that places a dollar sign on it. You might be wondering why I also selected the total sales. This is so that if I type anything, let's say I type 8 later, it will automatically just put it in the dollar sign for me. All right, so you now have this in dollar 4.50 like that. Okay, so this is what we'll be working with. We want to use this table. For this describes the kind of sales you have for a convenience store, because we have dates here, we have products, we have the category of the products, we have the quantity that was sold, the prices for each of them, the total sales made, and then how people paid. Did they pay in cash, in debit card, in credit card, whichever one. All right, so I would like to give this table a heading. So I just selected the first row and then click on enter. Now we have a brand new row to work with. Okay, so I'm going to just type a heading for this. We can call this daily sales transaction. Okay, I want this in caps. Let me just erase that. Daily sales transactions or transaction for a convenience. Okay, let me spell that right. Convenience store. And for the month of January 2026. Okay, that is great. So we've given it a heading, but things are not looking pretty arranged right now. Let's make it look better. So what I can do is I can highlight this. Since we have blue here, I can add the color. Let's say I fill this in with blue, with light blue, and let's fill this in too. I think we did it before I edited. So let's add a color back to it. I heard dark blue. So but I need the text on the heading to be centered. So what I can do is select the entire cell, come to where you have merge and center under home, click on it. You see it places it right at the middle. I also would like to make it bold, so I just highlight again. Okay, come here, click on Arial Black since we are already using that. Arial Black. Should we make it larger? Yes, let's make it a little larger. Let's change the color for consistency. We can use blue. Yes, our table is looking great. So let's just look at what this will look like if we need to print. You can do Ctrl P to print. Okay, now I want to print. I can see that some details are off from my printing page. So let's go back and adjust that. Please notice this dotted line you have here. This shows you where your printing page would stop. So if I like, I can just adjust some columns to make them smaller, or I can come to page layouts and change this to landscape. So I will print in a landscape format to give me more space. Okay, so let's check what this will look like if I want to print. This looks way better. But for a table, I think things can also still get mixed up if I print like this. So I would like to demarcate things way better. So what I can do is this. Remember how to grab a range, right? So let's do that. We selected the whole data. Come to home. Come here. This is your borders. You click on it and choose the border you want. Now I want a border everywhere. I can put on the left side, on the top, like that. Just choose what you like. But I'll click on all borders and have it everywhere. So let's look at what that will look like now if I want to print. Great. I think our table is looking pretty nice. You can add more color if you want, but let's keep it simple for now. All right, let's go back and see other things we can do. So these are just some basic formatting you can do. If you go through every tab you have here, you'll find a lot of other things you can still do with Microsoft Excel. So just play around with it and get more familiar with it, okay? So now let's go into what really makes Microsoft Excel unique, and that is formulas, okay? You can actually use a Microsoft Excel as a calculator, and I think that's really what differentiates Microsoft Excel with other products. All right, I will still have a different video where we'll look at a bunch of formulas. But let's just learn some basic things about formula right now. The first thing you need to know is that a formula is a calculation you type into a cell, and every formula must start with an equal sign. So if I want to calculate something here, I have to first put in the equal sign. If you don't put an equal sign, Microsoft Excel will treat it as a plain text. So let's say we have 4 plus 5, and I click on enter. Microsoft just gives me the answer. Excel just gives me the answer, okay? But if I do 4 plus 5 without an equal sign and click on enter, you see that it just treats it as a plain text, and I still have that text that way. So you could play around with a lot of things. You could do multiplication, division, whatever it is you want to do. Another thing, okay, let's apply this to our table then. All right. So if I come here, I would like to calculate total sales. And to get total sales, I have to multiply the quantity of a product I sold, say bottled water, by the unit price, all right? So with what I just thought you can do, equal to, so you have 20 multiplied by 2. You click enter, and you have an answer. Let's undo that, and I want to show you another way you can do it. So there's something we call cell referencing. If I put my equal sign, I can click on the cell I want. You see that the cell just appears there. I put the multiply sign. I click on the next cell that I want, and I click on enter. It gives me the answer that I want, okay? Now, instead of doing the same thing for every single cell, I can just hover around here, this edge, till I get this bold black plus sign. Click on it, drag it down. It will automatically add up everything for every cell. Not add up, rather multiply everything for every cell. So whatever it is I did here, it will copy that reference and apply it to every cell. So this is a very simple way to get things done in Microsoft Excel. Instead of doing it one after the other, you do it for one cell, you just drag down, it will apply to every other cell. If I click on any cell, I can see the formula that was used. So I'm clicking on this. And then if you look at the formula bar, remember I told you the formula bar shows formulas. You see the formula that gave you that 40. It is D3 multiplied by E3. If I click on this, it will show me the formula D6 multiplied by E6. If I click on 71.5, I can see that it is D9 multiplied by E9. So this is something that is unique about Excel. Don't assume that what you see in a cell is all there is to it. If you place your cursor there, if you highlight it, you might just be surprised to find that there are formulas hidden there in your formula bar. Okay. However, we also have some built-in functions that we can explore. So let's try that. So you don't have to always do it manually. Let's come down here. Let's say I type total. Okay. No, let's just write total. So I want to calculate the total quantity that was sold. I can just come here to home. If you look at this far right, you have a summation sign here. I can use this. If I click on this, it will give me a total. But let's go to formulas because you have other formulas there. All right. So I can come to auto sum, click here, and then I have different options. I have the options for sum. So let's click on sum. Beautiful. So look at what Microsoft Excel did. It highlighted a range for me. If I don't like this range, I can simply drag around and select the range I want, okay? But I'm okay with this range. Though it highlighted cell 15, but I can leave that because cell 15 is empty, so it won't affect my total. I'll just click on enter and I have the total. I can also do that manually. I can click enter and type what you saw previously. So I type the equal sign, sum, open brackets, reference this cell, put a column to show that it is a range, down to, I reference this cell, close my brackets, click on enter, and I have a total. Okay, and just like we did dragging down, you can drag to the side. Oh, I need the total here and I don't want to start doing it afresh. I can just drag and it gives me the total. That's very beautiful, right? Yes, that's one of the unique things about Microsoft Excel that you can just play around with. I can decide to do the average as well. So there are many other things you can do by yourself. Like I said, there'll be a different video that just talks about formulas and functions, and get to play around with a lot of that. So let's click here and you have average. I'll just click on average. So this is telling me D16, which is just the cell above it, but no, I want the average for this entire range. So I would reference it, put the colon sign down to D14, enter, and it has given me an average for this entire item sold. I can click on it and drag to get the average for our unit prices and for our total sales. Isn't that wonderful? I can decide that I want this average to be in percentage. So I can go back to home where you have numbers, see percentage right here. I can just click on percentage. But that's some very huge sum. So let's just take it back to numbers. That's just too high, okay? Or let's just take it back to the way it was. So I could have it in decimal points. But now I don't want it. I don't want all these decimal points. I can change it to just 2 decimal places. So if I come here, if I come to numbers, I can decide that it should be in 2 decimal places here, or 3 if I want, but I prefer 2. Then I click on OK. And that just makes it look simple for me. All right. So these are some basic things you can do with Microsoft Excel. Just explore, try out different functions, different things you have under formula. You have count numbers, maximum number, minimum, many other functions. You see, have some here. So you just try them out and see what works, okay? Another thing I would like you to learn is sometimes you might have a really large table to work with in Microsoft Excel, and you may not see what is at one end. So there are some ways to go about it. Let's say I want to compare column A with column G. Imagine I had a column Z and I want to compare what I have in column A to column Z. I cannot see it, but there are things I can do to just make that easier. So first, let us enlarge this. I'm enlarging it to just so that you can get what I'm trying to explain to you. So you won't see, okay. So you will not see that last column, and then I can explain it to you. All right. Okay, so I'm in column A and I want to make reference to column G, but I can't see it and I want to see it very closely. What I can do is to freeze column A, come here, select it by clicking on the letter, go to view, come down to freeze pane. You can see you can freeze panes, freeze top row, freeze first column. What I've selected is first column, so I'll click on freeze first column. What that does is when I scroll, first column will stay steady while other columns will roll. So I can now bring column G very close and make a comparison. So now I can see that, oh, on the 5th, this person paid with a debit card. On the 7th, this person paid $71.50 with a debit card. That makes it easy. I can freeze other panes. I can come here and unfreeze. If I unfreeze, column A will begin to move when I scroll. So you can tell the difference, right? Yes, that's about it. All right, the last thing I would like to show you for this tutorial, remember it's a very basic one to just make it easier for you to start. There will be more tutorials that would really expand more on what you can do with Microsoft Excel. All right, so I want to show you how you can plot a very simple chart, all right, or graph with the Microsoft Excel. So let's say I want to create a chart for products. Let me highlight that. Hold Control against let's say total sales. Okay, I can just come up here to where you have inserts and click on recommended charts. So it gives you a number of charts. I can use the ones that are recommended. I can click on different charts and look for what I like. If I don't like what was recommended, this is a pie chart, bar charts, you know, whatever it is I want, depending on what you are actually trying to create. But let's do something very basic. So I'll just click on, I think I like this one. So let me click on this and click on OK. And it just gives me a graph, or is it a chart rather? So I can do some, I can modify this. I can come up here. Okay, let's use here by the side so you can see it better. So I can add, if I want to put a title by the side, by the axis, I can click on this. All right, and then just let's edit it and write, let's say millions. So I'm saying that the currency I have here in dollars are in millions. So this is $300 million, $250 million. I can edit this one down. Okay, let me bring that to the center. I just clicked and dragged. So I can edit this and say products. Okay, so these are the names of the products that were sold. I think this looks better. So I can do a lot of things here. If I want to add the data on each of the products, I can do that, but I really think that looks that makes it looks clumsy. So let me just take that off. Sorry, let me take it off. If I want a data table, I can do it like that, but I think let's keep it simple. I can take off these guidelines if I don't want them. Yes, I prefer to do that. If I click here, I can change the style of my table. If I don't think this looks good enough, I can simply change the style. And I think I like this. I like this. It has a light shade to it. Okay. And I can change color. Let's say I don't really like. Okay. Let's try red. Okay, I can make it red. But then, if I make it red, my table was blue. I think it looks too different. So let me just take it back to blue and keep it very simple. Let me keep it at blue. Okay. What else would I like to do? If I want to remove anything from the table, I can just use this place to do that. Let's come back here. I don't want these data labels. Let me take them off. Okay, so I think this is okay. It's blocking my table, so let me drag it down. Let me move it down. Let's scroll down and see what it looks like. Okay, let's just keep it here. All right, I think I still want to change the title instead of total sales, because this was not just total sales. So let me say daily sales. Okay. Daily sales. This is fine. Let's look at what this looks like if I want to print. You are seeing just the chart because I selected it before, you know, coming to print. So this is what my chart will look like. Very simple and nice. I like it. But I don't like that bar line. Let me take it off. Or the grid lines rather. Or grid lines. I don't like them. Let me take them off. So this is what it will look like. You can play around, do a lot of things, do pie chart, whatever. So this is all for this tutorial. Like I said, this is a very basic simple tutorial for a start. There will be other tutorials, so ensure you subscribe and you like this channel. You can also tell me what you like to see in my next tutorial in the comment section. Thank you and have a nice day.